benefit for having somebody on site or on staff that would be handling this, especially if their job description is written the correct way, is that they would actually be on site with whoever the renter is that comes in. Yes, that does mean a lot of weekend work because a lot of the events and everything, as you know from conferences usually check in and everything is on Sunday, meetings Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it ends. So it would not be the most ideal job for some people. I have been approached by several individuals that are interested in or are curious about the position and would be interested that are local. I also share, I believe, Councilor Biondich's concern is would they have the resources to be nationwide networking to bring these conferences to us. But I think once that we had a conference coming here, having a staff member would lead to a better on-site experience and boost our reputation for hosting conferences. So it's kind of a mixed bag, 50-50. I don't mean to sound like I'm riding the fence, but essentially I'm riding the fence.
Okay, so go ahead, please continue, Councilor Freely, and then I've got a couple comments as well.
And I know that during the visits that we had to other existing businesses, like the Sanford Center? I mean, we knew that these other venues, so to speak, have contracted these types of individuals. And I mean, from my perspective, given the vision that we have for the utilization of the new MEC that we're going to have, it's a highly specified skill set that you're going to need to have, and with contacts and networking that's, like you say, nationwide. So, you know, from my perspective right now, I don't think we've got what we need yet with regard to who has already responded, and I'm not going to close my mind to any continued conversation with regard to local talent that we may have also, because there may be somebody out there that has experience we aren't aware of at this point in time. Why they haven't applied is I'm confused about also, since this has been out there. But from my perspective right now, what I've seen, what I've read, I don't necessarily feel in my gut that that's the appropriate contractor for us to avail for what we're looking to accomplish, to be honest with you. So I would like to see us put out a new RFP, and I also think we should utilize the resource of Isaac Sports Group again to press them on who they know, who they've worked with, other venues that are utilizing these types of individuals to kind of gear down to where we, you know, a focus point to who we're trying to accomplish this task for us.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll resume my comments to the end. Councilor Bearable, you have some additional information you want to engage?
Yeah. When we look at this, no matter what we do, I'm not against going out for another set of looks to see if there's other people, but I agree with what Councilor Friedlieb said, that if people were interested individually, they had the opportunity in this first RFP to respond. One of the things, if we go with an outside firm, we can write the contract any way we want with them. They can have to be on site for venues or have another participant. If it's a corporation, they can double up, bring somebody else from the corporation or company to make sure everything gets set up properly. And of course, Brian, you know that you'll have responsibility with that also. But I don't have an objection to go out again and take a look at this. I have been to many conferences over my career as a pharmacist, and many educational things, and they're all set up normally by venues that have been contracted outside to set these up at your big ones, because you can talk anywhere from 100 people to 500-600 people at these conferences I've been at. And when you get some of these big things, and we're going to have some big things up here, you're going to have probably the League of Minnesota Cities, the Greater Minnesota Cities. You're going to have all kinds of stuff. You alluded to library convention could be here in our interview with the new hire. So there's huge amounts of networking that needs to be done, and I've been involved with networking over my career, and it's important that you have that networking capability. So I am concerned about an individual. They have to have places they can go, people they can contact, and I don't know if, unless we get an RFP from somebody, that they'll have that capability.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Bearable. A couple quick comments, if I may. Well, go ahead, Councilor Johnson, do you have something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I try to keep in mind is that our current situation with social distancing and crowd sizes, that may have something to do with the lack of response, that people are unwilling to take a step forward to say, yes, we want to coordinate these events, not knowing if there's going to be events to coordinate. So I just think that is something I want to bring forward, and I'm going to keep in mind as we move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Johnson. I'd like to make just a couple of comments. I base my decisions on a recommendation being made by staff and what they think is the best way to go. But this is my perspective. First of all, this is a position that would require some expertise, obviously. So my question is if it hasn't been done, maybe we could do like a 3 or 4 prong approach to this. We were not successful in getting the vendors to apply that we anticipated we would. So I think we have to go back out again. By contacting each one of these other venues, particularly those that we visited, whether it's the Sanford Center, the Heritage Center, or the Thief River Falls, or the other places, and find out, who they hired. Is it a firm? Is it an individual? How they went about doing that? Was there a method in which the process they used? Are the employees of the city or the county or the state or whoever's running that program? But for me, it's the second part of that is we talk about for them, then we use the idea that was proffered by Councilor Friedli about having ISIC Sports Group reach out to people that they might know to go for that. But I'm for going back out for bids. I'd like to see us hire outside contractor, an individual to do this, and this is the reason why. As a city employee, you have a parameters, and no matter who we hire, they'll be working under the direction of our Park and Rec director, Brian, who spends countless hours as our director of public of Park and Rec. He's here on the weekends all the time, and that individual will be working directly under the supervision of our Park and Rec director, which we have all the faith in his abilities to be able to manage, whether it's a city employee or whether it's a contractor. But contractors, as Councilor Bearable indicated, we can write a contract based upon what we need, which is inclusive of a lot of these things. If travel is required, it's something we would consider. That's something we can control. Same thing within the city employee, we can. But this is not an 8-hour job. This is a job that requires a lot more than 8 hours, 40 hours a week, 2,080 hours a year, which under a contract, whether it's a city employee, whether it's a union contract or not, you're limited to how much time you spend, unless you make it a management position or an exempt position. So the other aspect of it is that if we're looking at designing a contract that's going to have some incentives on performance, if that individual or contractor or firm isn't performing, we can sever the contract within 30 days or 60 days, or we can look at other avenues. As a city employee, there's a huge process. If that city employee is not living up to the expectations or performing the way that we have the needs and expect them to do, how do you deal with that? It makes it very, very difficult to do so, and particularly when they're falling under a bargaining unit contract. So I think we have to go back out, look for put another RFP out, utilize all the resources that we have avail to us, call these other entities. What did you do? Do you have a marketing director? What is their contract? How does that work? Lay out all the guidelines established. What is the parameters of their duties and responsibilities? And what does their contract say with respect to a salary and benefit package? So, and another thing is, with the city employee, we're providing benefits. you know, with a contract employee, they would have to provide their own. Of course, that's all encapsulated in a contract based upon a fee for service, whether there's incentives there for the more venues that they have. They get the incentive is a little more incentive based above their contract. All those things can be worked out. I'd like to see us use a contract fee for employee. It makes it a lot easier for us to manage. In particular, that individual isn't out and independently operating here. That individual or firm will be strictly working under the supervision of our Park and Rec director. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I think the purpose of this meeting is to determine what we want to do. We want to go back out and advertise, and how do we want to do that? So I'm looking for some direction, some comments from the other counselors, and even from our staff as to how we craft a method in which to try to rebid this out and look for a contract employee or whatever the case may be moving forward. Because the bids that we received now, we only received one bid, and I think it's prudent for us to continue the process and expand that out and give more opportunities for people to apply. Maybe we look at how we advertise for that. So thank you. Councilor Bearable.
Yeah, that was, I was going to mention, Mayor, you just mentioned we need to expand the pool of where we go with these. There's entertainment magazines out there. There's other places we can go. That's where Isaac Sports and some of these other venues that I've hired can tell us where to go. We went to, what, 3 sources or 4?
No, I did the Star Tribune, Hometown Focus, Mesabi Daily News, Duluth News Tribune, Hospitality Magazine, and Explore Minnesota.
Okay, but they were all in the local area. We
No, I
didn't
did
probably.
the cities, Twin Cities, Star Tribune.
Yeah, but I mean, we didn't go out of Minnesota. You might want to go out of Minnesota with something, because there's people all over the country that do these things. I'm just saying Larry's right. We need to expand the RFP
Yep, so then
direction, and I'm not against going out again. I think it's prudent that we
I
do
was just
that.
going to say, a motion would be prudent then to extend the dates of the RFP for another 15, 30 days, whatever you think, 45, whatever you think is prudent.
Yeah, and I think that's the action that you're requesting, the direction we're requesting the council to do today.
That's what it sounds like the council wants to do.
Yeah, I think so. And just briefly before we move on, you know, I did ask Britt about ZipRecruiter, you know, those kind of things. And, you know, we've advertised for a firm, and mostly these ZipRecruiters are individuals. So if we're going to go out for an individual, that might be an option, or other headhunting firms that say, you know, the city of Virginia is looking for this, we pay a fee for that, and then we get all these, and they vet out, you know, they may have marketing degrees moving forward, and that would be, in answer to Councilor Bearable's question, that could go out nationwide, because, you know, something similar to that to consider as well. So anybody have any direction they want to move? First, Councilor Bronzelli, and then move back over to Councilor Johnson. Councilor Bronzelli.
Thank you, Mayor. Everybody here, I don't know what we're talking about. Is this the first time we had to get together with this?
No, we've been discussing this for quite a while.
At our...
Right.
At
Yeah.
City Hall?
Yeah, we voted to go out for bids for a marketing director or a firm
To do what?
to market the new MEC Center, the new Miners Memorial
I see.
Invention, Miners Event and Convention Center, to do the marketing and attract venues and get people to come here and rent the space out and schedule people and go out and do those kind of things.
I thought we were talking about for Ed Alto's position, but completely
No,
opposite.
no, this isn't Public Works. This is related to the marketing position for the Miners Event and Convention Center.
I honestly don't know, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I must
Okay.
be losing it. I don't know. I'm sorry.
That's right, but that's where we're at right now.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Britt, can you talk a little bit about what the conversation has been with Beth Pierce and the tourism? How have you used that resource to move forward?
I did tap Beth Pierce, who did send it on to people she knows in the industry. She said it was a very comprehensive RFP and very well written, that it hit every point she could think of, so we did a great job with the bones of it. The industry is down at the moment, so I think it could have been a timing issue. I mean, everybody was feeling a pinch with COVID, and everybody was nervous, was there going to be hospitality in the future, you know, and that's, with the pandemic, nobody really knew what was going to happen. So it could have really just been a timing issue, that a lot of people were just is that going to be their career forever because they don't know what's going to happen with hospitality? Are we going to have conferences again? Are we going to have concerts again? Are we going to do these things in the next year or so? And how do you sell that if you don't know?
Sure, and I think that we have a direction moving forward. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I will move that we extend the deadline, I'd say 45 days, because that gets us back in, out of the tourist season and back into theoretically routine again. So my motion is to extend the RFP and attempt to some other venues for advertisement up 45 more days.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Johnson. There's their support.
All support.
Support by Councillor Bearable. Further discussion. One quick when we advertise that, we did advertise, heavily for a firm. And we did not?
Firm or individual?
Individual?
Yes.
So we're looking for a marketing director, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, so you think the advertisement is clear enough to cover both?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We had some very clear parameters that you had to produce, some things you've done before, so somebody going new into this business wouldn't be inclined to apply. It would be somebody that's already had experience, and you had to prove you had experience, you had to show us what you got.
Sure.
So,
Thank you, Britt. It's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Paulson, any further discussion?
No, I'm actually really comfortable with that direction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Beyondich.
And no, but I do think this is a great idea to extend it and try to draw in more firms or individuals that would be able to handle the project. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sherry, did you get all the gist of that?
Yes, I did. And I thank you. That's all I can say. That's a good start here.
Okay, thank you. And Pam, did you get that motion? Pam, did you get that motion?
Yes.
Did? Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. There's no other business to come before the Personnel Committee of the Whole, so we will stand adjourned at 9.
Mayor, there was a second item on the agenda.
What was it?
About the separation of duties with the audit.
Okay, thank you. Sherry?
Hi. Noted in the management section of our 2019 audit was separation of duties we were cited for. I did talk to Greg Knudsen, and yes, some of that is related to public utilities, and his coworker Devin was going to get a list of things that we could do to help even make our segregation of duties better. But mainly it was with public utilities.
So,
Did everybody hear me okay?
yeah, we can hear you. So my question is that if the separation of duties are primarily related to the Department of Public Utilities, and of course they're included, they're a separate audit, but included with ours, and our audit, based upon our ratings and those kind of things, are affected by what the Department of Public Utilities do. So if the separation of duties is directly related to the utilities, they should be taking some action with respect to this. Am I correct in making that analysis, Sherry?
I wouldn't say 100% of it is all public utilities. Greg said there were some areas that, yeah, he would consider giving us a list to work on in our accounting staff, realizing we have a small staff, but there's a few more segregation of duties that we could do, and he was going to give us a list of how to do that.
Yeah, and that just didn't happen in this audit. It happened the audit year before too. There were some separation of duties issues as well.
Correct.
So my question to you, Sherry.
When we have a very small staff like we do, you're going to get that.
Well, my question is how do we, as a city, alleviate that Is it necessary to hire another staff member in order to meet to address the issues that came out of our audit?
No, we're gonna have to work with Public Utilities and our staff to correct this. It is an angst with me over the years, so I do want to see that come off.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Bearable?
Yeah, since I'm liaison to the utilities, and I was there when they discussed this issue with the audit, and they basically said this is an angst that happens all the time, but they need to step up because they don't have as many people, I don't believe, handling as we do in our finance department. So what Greg sends over, we need to work with him, and we need to work and push a little harder to correct these things, and because they know this issue, and they did the year before when I was there also. So, and I sat through their audit, and that was one of the letters they got on their audit.
Sherry, how do we address this? I mean, do you have the auditor gave us something the year before, and now we have a same thing with separation duties on this last year's audit. So what's the answer to ensure that, you know, we don't get penalized or this becomes an issue of concern in our next audit? Sherry?
Okay, Mayor, councilors, we will have to work at not allowing maybe one or two people to double up, but do more of a check and balance and spread some of the duties that may be, a few people have been doing majority of their time here, so we're gonna have to give that more to another person to do and separate up the duties and have just more eyes on it. Once again, though, I'm gonna wait for the list from Greg. And then, yes, I'll also ask him that, you know, we work together with Public Utilities to get this straightened up.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. In my experience, I had an office of two. So one of the things that we did was to physically separate people. So maybe something to think about is not having all of the people that work on the finances in the same room. The City Hall, and now with Tom's office being empty and there's a couple of offices upstairs, maybe that's something to think about, is physically separating the people in the finance department so they have their own space. That would be, at least looks like, I mean, we're attempting to make some changes, and that might mean shuffling some offices around or allowing for, the other thing I think that would do is it would allow for people to have a little bit more privacy working on finances, and having people that can pop in with, there's 3 people in that office on any given day, and disruptions while doing finances can be a challenge. So there might be some other opportunities there. And finally, with our social distancing and having physical space between people, if someone was going in to say to talk to Wendy and she had her own space, or Megan had her own space, or however that works, that would reduce the amount of exposure to staff as well. So I think that might be something to think of, and some questions to ask as we're moving forward of the staff is, what could we do to help physically distance you and create some better working environments for the staff?
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. So Sherry, you're waiting for a list to come back from Greg Knudsen, some suggestions on how we can alleviate the issues that were outlined in the last 2 years
That
of
is
audit.
correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Paulson, any questions or comments?
I just wanted to ask, in the previous audit where we got this issue brought up, was there recommendations in the past?
Sherry?
Yes, there have been. We just didn't have the staff, and now with hiring another person in the accounting staff, we just need to now shell out the duties a little bit better.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Councilor Beyondich, any comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Freely.
You know, if I recall, over the 16 years that they did audits annually at the St. Louis County School District, these kinds of situations occurred regularly. And I think like the procedures or the processes within the accounting parameters require this separation of duties, but then there's the realities of the staff that you have available to be able to enact that. And I think Greg is aware of that. And so I don't think that we would be penalized, but we will certainly take the recommendations Greg gives to us to make every effort to alleviate that separation of duty consideration. Because I really think, given the limitations of the staff, this is going to be a continuous challenge for us to have the separation of duties that would meet that standard within the accounting procedures. So I'm not downplaying the importance of that, but the reality is we have only so many staff members that are available to do that, and his recommendations would be sufficient for us to then meet the expectations of the audit, is I hope, I would think.
Thank you, Councillor Freely. Councillor Bearable.
Yeah, I believe Councillor Freeliv is correct. I've been around as a city councilor for a long, long time, and we always got geeked in areas of finance, and they send you a list. You do the best you can to correct the list. It still comes up. I don't remember a year ever since I've been on the city council that this issue hasn't come up, because you just don't have enough staff to do that. You just got to get those duties, as Sherry said, a little more separated. That's it. And I don't think it's physical space. It's actually duties. There's enough physical space, because they talk back and forth in that office about issues that may happen. Somebody's in charge, but they still talk back and forth, and then that becomes a bigger issue to separate distance.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. You'll wait for the recommendations coming back from our auditor, Mr. Knudsen, and the law or the accounting firm there. You'll make recommendations you'll make changes how to implement those recommendations, and you'll come back to the city council and the city administrator with the plan moving forward to try to address the issues outlined by the accounting firm in the audit. Is that correct?
That is correct, and Greg knows to our desire to get this off our audit.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anything else the council from the council you'd like to add? We're good. Okay. Anything else? Britt.
Yes, I do have one other thing. We need to set a a special council meeting for a closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D05 Subdivision 2 for preliminary consideration of allegations or charges against an individual subject to council authority.
Okay, and so you're asking us to set the meeting today?
Set a meeting date.
A meeting date?
Yes.
So, okay, so we anticipate this was coming. We have to have a special council meeting to address this issue. So, you all should have
gotten an email yesterday from our attorney, Josh Hagum.
Right, correct.
explaining what this is.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I didn't want to discuss the contents of that email, but, so we need to set a date. So, Britt, I know you have some scheduling issues over the next week or so here, so what would be a recommendation as to the soonest we can meet with everybody present, along, of course, with our attorney of record?
Either the 22nd, Wednesday the 22nd, Thursday the 23rd, or Friday the 24th.
Okay. I'm available on Friday, but I'll be out of town late Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of that week on a job obligation.
Mayor?
Councilor Bearable.
Yeah, I'm not available for part of the 23rd unless we're leaving the day on the 23rd, but Friday will work for me also.
Just a minute.
Councilor Freely, is that workable on Friday? The 24th, is that workable for you? It is. Councilor Johnson? Appears to be for you. Councilor Barnzelli? Councilor Paulson, does Friday the 24th for that special Personnel Committee meeting work for you sometime on Friday, the 24th?
If it would be in the morning, that would work for me.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Beyondich,
Yeah, that should be fine.
could we schedule it for, our attorney will be driving up the night before, probably calling, so if we schedule it for 9 a.m., would that acceptable? So looking for a motion to set a special council meeting, to Personnel Committee of the whole meeting for Friday, the 24th at 9 a.m.
Also move, Mayor.
Moved by Councilor Baraboo and supported by Councilor Barnzelli to set a special Personnel Committee of the whole meeting, or it's a special council meeting, actually, excuse me, a special council meeting for Friday, July 24th at 9 a.m. And that would be at the council chambers? At the council chambers at City Hall. Okay, it's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're done? Okay, thank you. Okay, we will adjourn this Personnel Committee of the whole meeting at 9:48 a.m. Thank you. Everybody have a great day. We stand
Thank
adjourned.
you. Thank you.